Have you ever noticed that many times it's not the clothes that destroy a woman's image, but the way she reacts? It might be a criticism, a mean comment, or even someone deliberately trying to provoke you. If you lose your composure, all your elegance falls apart in seconds. But when you master your reactions, you radiate something that no luxury brand could ever buy: presence, sophistication, and silent power. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. How an elegant woman learns to never get irritated, no matter what others say or do. When was the last time someone tried to steal your peace or hurt your self-esteem? How did you react? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to know. Today you will discover that calmness is not weakness, but rather a powerful form of protection. So, if you are ready to master your reactions, safeguard your peace, and become not only elegant and wise, but also that woman who cannot be shaken by anyone, take this moment to subscribe to the channel so we can continue growing together every day. Understand this essential truth. Anger, though it may seem spontaneous, is always the result of a choice. You don't get upset solely because of what someone does, but because of the way you interpret what was said or done. This realization may feel uncomfortable at first, but it is profoundly liberating. Because if your irritation depended entirely on someone else's behavior, you would be condemned to live as a hostage of other people's tempers, a prisoner of their words and actions. The reality, however, is different. Anger is born within you, and precisely because of that, it can be controlled. It is up to you to decide whether you will feed it until it grows or starve it until it fades away. Most people, unfortunately, don't realize this power. They live on autopilot, reacting immediately to every provocation, as if they were puppets that anyone could manipulate. It's like walking on a tightrope that sways with every gust of wind. But a conscious and elegant woman knows that there is always a precious interval between what happens and the way she chooses to respond. And it is in this interval, often imperceptible, where true strength resides. There lies the difference between losing control or remaining in command of yourself. Think about this. Someone treats you rudely, interrupts you while you're speaking, or simply ignores you in a moment that mattered to you. In such situations, you can choose to explode in anger, raise your voice, and let rage take over. Or you can take a deep breath, gather yourself, and respond differently. It's not about pretending that nothing happened, nor about repressing your feelings, but about recognizing, yes, this bothered me, but I decide how I will handle it. When you act this way, you are no longer an emotional puppet, but rather someone who moves guided by awareness. Anger is like fire. It may start as a small, harmless flame, but if you feed it with thoughts of injustice, resentment, or revenge, it quickly grows until it consumes all your peace. And here comes the crucial question. Are you really willing to give away your energy, your mood, and even the serenity of your day to someone who might not even be aware of the damage they're causing? Many people provoke precisely because they enjoy feeling powerful when they see someone else lose control. But when you don't react, you take that power away from them. It's as if they threw a stone into a lake, yet the surface remains still. No waves, just silence. And that silence, firm, unshakable, and serene, is what truly disarms them. Anger, even though it may seem to appear on its own, always passes through an internal filter. What you think about the situation, the meaning you give it, the value you assign to it. That's why the next time someone provokes you, ask yourself, will I react or will I choose my peace? Staying calm does not mean, in any way, accepting or approving what was done to you. It means, rather, respecting yourself so deeply that you do not allow anyone to have the power to control your emotional state. When a woman understands that anger is a choice, she transforms into a solid wall against life's storms. The winds blow, the waves crash with force, but she remains standing, firm, serene, and fully aware that her peace is not negotiable. And here lies the great gift, hidden in this posture. By learning not to get irritated automatically, you discover a lighter, clearer, and more powerful life. It is like removing invisible chains that once held you captive. Because the truth is that constant anger works like a suffocating prison, and the key to that cell has always been in your hands. Never forget, do not take anything personally. The attitudes and reactions of others say far more about them than they do about you. What they say, what they keep silent, how they react or ignore. None of this describes who you are, but reveals what exists inside them. Many times, behind an insult or a provocation lies unresolved pain, accumulated frustrations, or an emotional void they do not know how to fill. The problem is that we were taught from a very early age to interpret everything as something personal. She spoke harshly to me, so I must have done something wrong. He didn't greet me, so he must be angry with me. She didn't choose me, so I'm not enough. But this logic is an illusion. The truth is that in at least 90% of cases, people's reactions have nothing to do with you, but with their own stories, fears, and internal battles. Think of this image. Someone throws a bucket of dirty water on you. Do you get angry at the water? Of course not, because you know that filth doesn't belong to you, it didn't come from you. And that is exactly how it works with harsh words or negative attitudes. They do not come from your essence, but from theirs. And here lies the golden key. If you don't take it personally, it doesn't wound you. If you don't carry the weight, you don't get tired. If you don't believe it, it doesn't limit you. People hurt because they are hurt themselves. They criticize because they feel insecure. They humiliate because they need to inflate their own ego. When you react with anger, you hand over to them the power to manipulate your emotions. But when you look from a distance, with serenity, you see that their words are nothing more than arrows shot into the wind. They only hit you if you choose to stand in their path. Remember this: it is not your burden, it is theirs. You do not need to carry anyone else's insecurities, frustrations, or emotional voids. When you choose not to take things personally, you not only protect your peace, but also learn to relate in a healthier way. Because you stop entering battles that don't belong to you, and you preserve your energy for what truly matters: your dreams, your well-being, and your self-love. The next time someone tries to provoke you, remain in inner silence and look with compassion. Think. What this person says or does reveals only who they are, not who I am. That is true emotional freedom. To live without invisible chains binding you to the opinions, judgments, or approvals of others. A woman who takes nothing personally becomes a fortress. Not because she is cold, distant, or indifferent, but because she has learned to distinguish between what belongs to her and what never did. And never forget, your worth is not defined by how someone treats you. Your worth is absolute, non-negotiable, and eternal. Everything else, all the noise, is just that, noise, with no power over who you truly are. When you discover that your peace is a non-negotiable treasure, you begin to dress not only for the external gaze, but also for your own soul. Because true elegance is not found only in remaining silent in the face of provocation, but also in the intention behind each choice, from the way you speak to the way you present yourself to the world. That's why I always say, taking care of your image is not vanity. It is part of the same process of self-respect. And if you want to go deeper on this path and learn how to build a wardrobe that reflects serenity and confidence, I've prepared something special for you. The Wardrobe Capsule book will show you how to transform 16 pieces into 120 different looks. Practical, timeless, and sophisticated, while also saving you both time and money. After this video, you can click the blue link below and secure your copy. But let's continue. Training your mind to observe instead of reacting is perhaps one of the most refined forms of self-control that exists. Every time something bothers you, before giving in to impulse, simply stop. Take a deep breath and allow yourself to feel the strength of that moment. That breath is not a trivial gesture. It is a silent act of power. It is in that instant that you choose not to be a hostage of emotional haste, but to act from your center, the place where your true elegance resides. The mind, just like the body, is a muscle in constant training. If you condition it to react immediately, it will become a specialist in explosions, always ready to respond with aggression to any provocation. But if you train it to observe, little by little it will become a master in the art of staying calm, even when the storm rages around you. Next time someone says something that pricks you like a sharp needle, imagine that you are not inside the scene, but sitting comfortably in the audience, as a spectator of a film. You are not the character who shouts, cries, or loses control. You are the observer who analyzes, who sees the whole picture, and who decides with wisdom whether it is worth investing energy in that scene or simply letting it pass, like an irrelevant part of the storyline. When you learn to observe instead of reacting, you discover something transformative. Most conflicts only survive when they are fed. A cruel comment, if unanswered, dies in the air as if it never existed. A provocation, if it does not receive attention, loses its strength and disappears. And here a precious truth is revealed. Calm disarms more than 1,000 words. Because calm is not passivity, calm is strategy. It is the sophisticated art of not giving the other the satisfaction of watching you lose control. Picture this scene. Someone tries to light a bonfire in front of you. They bring the wood, the paper, and even the match. But you are the one who holds the oxygen. If you don't blow, the fire doesn't grow. That is exactly how anger and provocation work. When you don't react, you deprive the other of the fuel they need to feed on your energy. Observing does not mean folding your arms in the face of injustice, but rather choosing the right moment and the exact way to act. Because not everything deserves an immediate response. In fact, not everything deserves a response at all. This training, of course, requires patience. In the beginning, your mind will beg to react as always, to raise your voice, to justify, to defend yourself. But with practice, you will realize that it becomes more natural each time to remain in your center and remind yourself, I will not react, I will only observe. And the more you practice this, the stronger you become. Because you discover that your peace does not depend on the chaos outside, but on the intimate decision you make within. The woman who masters this art is not cold, nor indifferent. She is wise. She understands that her energy is far too precious to waste on people or situations that do not deserve it. Engrave this in your mind. Not reacting is not losing. It is gaining time, gaining clarity, and above all, gaining power. Always choose your peace over the need to be right. Many discussions are not born from the pursuit of truth, but from the vanity of the ego, which insists on proving its superiority. The ego wants to win, to display that it is correct, that the other is wrong, that its perspective is the clearest. But living this way means entering endless battles that drain your energy, exhaust your soul, and leave only emptiness where satisfaction should be. Peace is infinitely more valuable than winning an argument, because peace remains when the conversation ends, while the feeling of victory is only a fleeting relief, often accompanied by resentment, distance, and even wounds that linger. The great problem is that the ego is insatiable. It wants the last word. It wants to prove it is smarter, more rational, more informed. And yet, this desire does not give you power. It imprisons you. Because when your calm depends on someone else acknowledging that you are right, you hand over your well-being to something you can never control: the pride, the mind, and the emotional wounds of another. Here is the liberating truth. You do not need anyone to think like you in order to be at peace. You do not need agreement or validation to feel secure. True security comes from within, from the certainty of who you are, from trusting your own experience and the values you carry, even if no one applauds or approves. Letting go of the need to convince others is an act of maturity and, above all, of freedom. It is understanding that every human being sees the world through the filter of their own pain, beliefs, and experiences. Not everyone will arrive at the same conclusions as you, and that's perfectly fine. So, the next time you feel the urge to respond, to justify yourself, or to win, ask yourself a simple question. Will what I'm about to say bring peace, or only feed the fire? Is it really worth exchanging your tranquility for a battle of words? Or would it be far more elegant to simply smile, remain silent, and move on? Never forget, silence is also a response, and often the most powerful one. Those who seek to argue depend on your reaction to sustain themselves. When they don't get it, they are left speaking to themselves, disarmed by your calm. Choosing peace does not mean staying silent in the face of injustice or abandoning your values. It means being strategic, knowing when to speak and when to walk away, when to explain and when to let others remain with their own truth. A woman who places her peace above the need to prove she is right is not weak. She is wise. Because she understands that life is not a series of disputes to be won, but a journey that deserves to be lived with serenity, energy, and space for what truly matters. And remember, true victory is often not in hearing others say, "You were right," but in laying your head on the pillow at night, closing your eyes, and knowing that you did not lose your calm over something that, in truth, will not matter tomorrow. Close the door to negative energy. Without hesitation, protect yourself from the people and situations that repeatedly push you to your limits. Because no matter how much you work on your inner peace, if you remain exposed to toxic environments, sooner or later you will absorb part of that poison, a poison that corrodes you from the inside out. Life is a constant exchange of energies. Some lift us up like a fresh breeze. Others drain us like an invisible weight. There are people who are like the sun. They brighten, warm, motivate, and make you feel more alive. But there are also those who are like storms. They arrive heavy, darken your mood, exhaust your patience, and silently steal your joy. Closing the door to negative energy is not coldness, selfishness, or indifference. It is self-love. It is deep respect for your well-being. Distancing yourself is not a sign of weakness, but proof of wisdom. Because a woman who respects herself never allows anyone to drag her into a mental or emotional state that may take hours, days, or even weeks to rebuild. And this is not limited to major conflicts. It includes relationships in which you always have to justify yourself, situations where you constantly need to defend yourself, conversations that inevitably end in criticism, sarcasm, or contempt, and places where you feel you must dim your light just to fit in. These small daily erosions are like drops that, together, eventually flood your peace. Closing the door often does not mean cutting ties forever, but rather establishing clear boundaries. It is having the courage to say no where you once said yes. It is changing the subject when you notice the conversation is becoming toxic. It is reducing the time you spend with certain people. Without guilt, simply out of respect. For your emotional health, it also means being mindful of what you feed your mind. Negative energy does not only arrive through people, it can seep in through the news you consume, the social media you scroll through without thinking, the toxic comments you keep reading. Every word, every image, every stimulus is food for your soul. And you must carefully choose what you allow inside. Think of your peace as a home. If you leave the door wide open, anyone can walk in and leave dirt behind. But when you learn to lock it, only what you allow comes in, and only what is welcome remains. The woman who lives in peace does not expose herself to those who try to destroy her from within. Not because she is fragile, but because she has understood that her energy is sacred. She knows that by protecting herself, she is cultivating fertile ground for her strength, her joy, and her growth to flourish. In the end, surrounding yourself with people and environments that nourish your soul is not a luxury. It is a vital necessity. The more you practice this conscious selection, the more natural it becomes to identify negative energy and block it, without guilt, without explanations. Because true emotional freedom is not only about controlling what you feel, but also about choosing with whom and with what you share your life. When you choose not to get irritated, it is not that the world has changed. It is that you have. People will continue to be who they are, days will continue to bring challenges, and life will keep testing your patience. But with every conscious decision to remain calm, you become wiser, stronger, and more in control of yourself. And then you discover that your peace does not depend on everything being perfect, but on your ability to protect your energy in the midst of any storm. And in this silent, yet profoundly powerful transformation, you reclaim your true power. Never forget, calm is not passivity. It is the mark of a woman who knows exactly who she is, and who never allows herself to be dragged by anything or anyone.